Now to a story you'll see only on KXOI4. They were events that shocked our community. A mass shooting and a B-52 crash at Fairchild Air Force Base. Now the military police officer who stopped the gunman has written a new book, Warnings Unheeded. And tonight in a special report, KXOI4's Jeff Humphrey introduces us to author Andy Brown and why the former staff sergeant thinks both the crash and the shooting spree could have been prevented. Jeff?
Nadine, if you have a membership at a local gun range or reload your own ammunition, you've probably already heard about Andy Brown. His 70-yard-long headshot with a pistol saved lives at Fairchild's hospital and made Brown a living legend in the world of defensive tactics shooting. However, Brown's heroism also came with a great price to his own mental health, and writing this book became an important part of Brown's therapy.
Shot me. Crime Stop, reporting a crime and emergency.
An emergency crime. There's a guy in a hospital running around with a shotgun.
Copy. All right, we'll send somebody over.
Okay.
The third week of June 1994, it was the worst in Fairchild's 74-year history. A deranged gunman had killed 5 people and wounded 22 at the base hospital. 4 days later, a B-52 practicing for an upcoming air show plunged to the ground. Security Forces policeman Andy Brown witnessed both tragedies.
Yeah, I was visiting with the gate guard, and the call came over the radio. Fairchild to all posts and patrols. Like an alarm.
ER hospital, informational. We have an individual in the hospital running around with a shotgun.
Brown had spent the afternoon patrolling base housing on his bicycle. Fortunately, he was just 3/10 of a mile from where the shots were already ringing out.
Before that transmission had ended, I was out of that gate shack and put on my helmet and was pedaling towards the hospital.
By then, a former airman named Dean Melberg had already slipped inside this bathroom stall to remove a rifle from his duffel bag. His first 2 targets, a pair of Fairchild psychologists who forced Melberg out of the military. Melberg then started randomly shooting other people in and around the hospital.
I continued to ride further. I began to hear gunshots. They were reverberating off of the housing area and the hospital buildings.
Melberg was firing a MAC-90, a Chinese-made AK-47 outfitted with a 75-round drum. Brown was armed with a Beretta 9mm pistol. The senior airman was seriously outgunned, but still got off his bike and yelled at Melberg to drop his weapon.
And he didn't. And he still wasn't reacting to me. I yelled again, and that's when he turned his attention and his rifle on me.
And that's when Brown fired the shots that would end Melberg's mental health rampage. As people hid behind cars and trees, Melberg disappeared behind the Beretta's front sight.
When I fired the 4th round, he jumped up in the air, spun around, and landed flat on his back and was motionless.
When police processed Melberg's gun, it was still loaded with 19 unused bullets. It's one reason why Brown's 70-yard pistol shot won him the instant praise of the Spokane community.
If I think about it, I know that I saved lives, but it was difficult to feel any joy about that because of so many people that were hurt that I deep down felt responsible for.
Brown would appear on the back cover of Airman magazine. He received numerous medals, but the brave police officer would develop feelings of guilt and anxiety about the lives he didn't save. The 5 names on this monument here in Fairchild's Memorial Park.
And when I started to finally realize that maybe I needed some help, I was relieved of duty, couldn't carry a gun anymore just for seeking counseling, so that maybe not continue to pursue counseling until it was too late.
As Brown developed PTSD for what he had experienced at the hospital, the Air Force realized it had waited too long to discharge and distance itself from gunman Dean Melberg. The day before the rampage, Melberg spent $2,000 on strippers here at the Deja Vu.
Yes, a lot of people actually predicted that he could be a threat of workplace violence, and they brought those concerns to their superiors, but they were ignored or dismissed.
And ironically, after Brown had ended Melberg's shooting spree with that heroic shot, Brown ignored his own warning signs.
So I was trying to be John Wayne and just live with it and think it was going to go away on its own, but for me it didn't.
Andy Brown now knows even the strongest people can be deeply impacted by traumatic events. He wishes he had gotten counseling a lot sooner.
And I think if people can learn from my mistakes and seek help now before it's too late, that's all the more better.
Now, retired Staff Sergeant Andy Brown has recovered from his PTSD and still protecting people from harm, working for the Department of Homeland Security. His book, Warnings Unheeded, goes on sale this Saturday. Andy will be hosting a book signing party at Northern Quest Casino this Saturday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. We have a link to his website where you can inquire about purchasing the book. That's on KXLY.com.
22 years ago. You and I were both here reporting on that story, Jeff, and now we have a new wing commander. He wanted to weigh in on this story.
Yeah, his name is Colonel Ryan Samuelson, and he knows that mental illness is at the heart of this hospital shooting. He says the Air Force has learned a lot from the gunman who was able to avoid getting the help that he obviously needed.
All right.
While nothing 100% can absolve risk on what happened back in 1994, I do believe that the DoD is committed. It's committed to identifying its issues, providing the resources, but most importantly for me, of changing a culture where mental health issues are not looked at as something that should be shunned, but something that should be addressed and identified.
And Nadine, the book also takes a look at the B-52 crash of that same week. The bomber crashed when the pilot flew well beyond the plane's aerodynamic capabilities. Worst of all, a lot of high-ranking officers at Fairchild knew the pilot had dangerous flying habits, and one of them actually died trying to prevent that crash. We'll have that part of the story coming up tonight here, KXLY4 at 6:30.
All right, and Jeff, you're going to take over our Facebook live stream right now.
Would like to answer any questions that you have about the book as best I can.
I know you can. I bet there'll be a lot of people with a lot of questions. So head on over to our Facebook page. We are streaming live right now behind the scenes. Jeff will take that over and answer your questions. All right, thank you, Jeff.